Was there an Adam? Was there an Eve? Or did we evolve from what we conceived? Either way, we got what we needed.
Hey, everybody, this is Harvey Sluggo Wasserman back for the 61st Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Coalition. I want to say hi to my listeners at the Progressive Radio Network, the Solartopia Green Power Wellness Show. We have a ton to cover today. We've got 42 people on the line as we start, and just joined by Arthur Levine and by Ray McClendon in Georgia. We have a ton to cover, as always, on the elections. And I will say that this is a day that I didn't think I'd see again, but it's April 30th, 1975 again. That is the day that the people were dragged off the rooftop of the American Embassy in Saigon. And here we are, deja vu all over again in Kabul. You would think that we'd learned something in Vietnam, but apparently we got to learn it all over again. I hope 50 years from now, there's not another country where American troops and our supporters are being pulled off rooftops, running to catch up with airplanes. I mean, it's a horrific situation. Our heart goes out to the people of Afghanistan. They have only been kicking people out of Afghanistan, the graveyard of empires, for about 2,500 years. I mean, Afghanistan has been perpetually invaded, God knows why, and even 500 years BC, countries were invading Afghanistan and getting their butts kicked. So we are just the latest, and again, it's a terrible thing to see. Let's hope we have the good sense to not go into any more countries and try and kick them around. I mean, come on, please, let's have a learning curve in this country after all these years. I will say, by the way, being a historian, you should never ask a long question of a historian, so I'll be brief. The first major, of course, the whole United States is built on the conquest of North America. I used to have a button when I was in college that said U.S. out of North America. But the first foreign invasion that we did was in the early 1800s. Thomas Jefferson was president, and we invaded Tripoli, which is now, of course, Libya, to try and catch some pirates. Killed thousands of people, by the way, completely fruitless. And here we are once again, another April 30th, another hurried departure from another failed war. Let's just hope we never, never, never repeat this mistake again. Please. Okay, today we're going to talk about tremendously important developments with H.R. 1 and H.R. 4. Joel Segal is going to fill us in on these two absolutely vital pieces of legislation that are, limping along, and Joel will give us the detail. We're going to do a brief run into the Pacifica Radio Network and talk about what's going on there, because it is an election issue. And since we deal with elections a lot, I wanted to include the Pacifica discussion. Then we're going to go back to Joel Segal for a very in-depth discussion of what is now just 2 weeks away, our major national Get Out of Your Silos Coalition 4-hour Zoom call, which is going to happen August 30th from 1 to 5 Eastern. And we're really going to try and build a progressive network in this country that everybody can plug into, plug in your issues, plug in the climate, voter rights, justice, DC statehood, the Georgia miracle, and all that stuff. And we're joined by Ray McClendon. I'm going to ask Ray a minute. I can't resist a football question, so I'm going to start with him. But we're also going to go look at New York. New York has a new governor, and she looks really right-wing, boy. She is a Democrat. She's from upstate New York. First female governor of the state of New York. We also have this referendum going on in California, which I predict, by the way, that Gavin Newsom will win. I think that a few months ago, I told my son-in-law that I thought Cuomo was going to go and that Newsom would stay, and I'm going to stick by that. We have Sue Dorfman, who's going to give us a report. Rebecca Landau. Leno is going to talk to us. And Ray, I want to start with you, Ray McClendon in Georgia. I can't resist the football question. I kept calling Raffensperger. You actually called Raffensperger the Secretary of State. We referred to him as Roethlisberger, who I guess is coming back for another year with the Steelers. is Herschel Walker really running for governor? And what do we think of for Senate? And what do we think about that? Everybody should know Herschel Walker was a professional football player. He was a big guy. Mike Ditka gutted the Saints to get him, and he really wasn't a great professional football player. He didn't have much of a career. Ray McClendon, what is the significance of a Black Republican friend of Trump running for U.S. Senate in Georgia?
Well, I think it's going to muddy the water here because Herschel Walker is an icon at the University of Georgia, which is, not only the dominant football school, but dominant in politics in Georgia. A lot of alums are peppered throughout the Georgia General Assembly. So they are in political power, business, and education power in Georgia. So having his name is worth several points on its own. Having said that, however, he's going to have a difficult time getting out of any Republican primary, in my view. There might be people who disagree, but he really doesn't live in Georgia any longer. So that's his first problem. He's really not politically savvy, in my view. So I think he's got a steep uphill climb. There are a lot of other Trump suitors who from around the state who I think would be much stronger candidates. And nobody knows yet whether or not Loeffler is going to run again. And then there are a couple of others that are out there. And she's been trying to buy her way back into Trump's favor. She gave 200, she's independently wealthy. And she gave $250,000 to Trump's political action fund in the last, at least it showed up in the last filing. So there are going to be a lot of people involved in that. On its face, let's just look at it. The real reason why they're throwing Herschel Walker out there is you got a Black Republican with a major name to run against Warnock, an African-American senator. So it's very obvious what they're trying to do, but I don't think that's going to work in the primary.
Very interesting. It's who would have thought in the state of Georgia that they would be the Republicans would be contending for a U.S. Senate seat with a Black man? I mean, that is that is very new, but you do have a Black Republican in South Carolina, which in a way is even more counterintuitive. So, Ray, we're looking for another Georgia miracle, right?
Absolutely, and we're gearing up for it. We have municipal elections this year, so we officially start voting season today, the 16th of August. So we're starting up because we now can request absentee ballots via application. So we're beginning to get the word out on how we overcome SB 202. So the municipal elections in the fall become the test case.
Tell us real quick what SB 202 is. Then we can go.
Okay, SB 202, as you recall, was the response to the extraordinary turnout that we had in both the general election and the January runoffs, and the big lie that Trump was telling. The state General Assembly passed Senate Bill 202, which is significant voter suppression legislation in the state of Georgia, in addition to having more onerous ID requirements, shorter absentee ballot periods, tighter constraints on early voting, and eliminating a substantial number of drop boxes in the major metropolitan areas. One other major thing it did was it stripped the Secretary of State of authority over the state election board. Jeez. And it allows now the General Assembly to name members of the board, which means that the Republicans who are in control of the General Assembly will be able to politically control the state election board. Further, now the state election board through that committee can do an audit and do a hostile takeover of any quote unquote underperforming county election board in the state. They've already taken action, procedural action, to begin this process with Fulton County, which happens to be the largest county and the most diverse county in the state. So this is just a test case to determine how they will take over the major election boards in the state in advance of 2022 and 24.
Terrible, unbelievable. Rebecca Landau, you're working in Georgia. Do you want to give us an update on what's going on with your operation?
Yeah, I'm just going to say that it was 24,000 names were pulled off the Secretary of State's list of voters about to be purged just before today. And of that 24,000, we've managed to get it down to 4,000, and we should be done in the next 3 days. So that's in rural.
Exactly. Tell us what you're doing.
We're alerting every rural Georgian who is on the voter about to be purged list that they're about to be purged, and we are giving them both the voter protection hotline number and the sos.gov website for Georgia. And it's like a nonpartisan, alert on voter purging. And this is to trying to reach all the people who don't necessarily have telephones in rural Georgia. So of 24,000 people from across the country did it. We organized this mostly through Twitter, and we're down to 4,000 postcards, and we will have that done, in the next 3 days.
It's a fantastic operation. So I think part of the Georgia miracle happened when on this call we connected Ray with Andrea Miller, and I assume you're working with Ray as well, right? Are you guys in touch?
I've been in touch.
Rebecca Landau?
I've been in touch a little bit. This project came out of Muskogee County, and it's excluding all the major urban areas. So I was just brought on again as a nexus to support for the organizing and bringing people on so we could just get these postcards out, because this was started 3.5 weeks ago, because there was a lot of upset on the ground in counties outside Columbus and outside Muskogee that the Republicans are already on the ground hosting barbecues and organizing trainings in community centers and halls. And I know that the major urban centers with Fair Fight and NAACP are being covered. And I know that there's just a lot of people out there. So this was a friend of mine started this in Georgia. She's a big organizer in outside Columbus. And this is to hit rural Georgians. And, that's why we called it the Every Person's Postcard Project, because anybody can do it.
So this needs to be duplicated nationwide. This postcard project. And Ray,
absolutely, great idea.
So Rebecca, can you put your contacts in the chat, and maybe next week you give us a more detailed analysis with Ray of how this is proceeding in Georgia, because this is a template for what's got to happen. I mean,
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I'll put that in, but I think Ray and I Ray, I'll email you. I have your contact, so I'll just remind you.
Well, I think, we talked once before, but now's the time to ramp it up. Absolutely.
Right. So we're just, and I just want to say we're one of a lot of small projects, and I'm supporting it's just like, this is what it's going to have to be like. And we're just really trying to work for people who don't have phones. And this is one of many ways. And we just want to get on the ground as soon as we can. And the Dems are not doing anything. So.
No. And you can't expect them to be outside of the metro area, and have people doing that outside of metro areas is absolutely spot on.
Thank you. And thank you for all you're doing, Ray.
And the Republicans do seem to have an advantage in terms of on the ground organizing, and the effect that they don't seem to think there's a pandemic going on. And they seem to think they're immune to COVID. I mean, every day I read in Huffington or somewhere else on the line about a COVID denier who's died of COVID and regretted that they didn't get vaccinated. So who knows what's going to happen here. Ruth Strauss, Elsa Schaefer, and then we're going to go to Sue Dorfman. Ruth Strauss, I think you got de-admitted here.
Yeah, hi.
Go ahead.
You already took care of part of it, which was to put the contact. And also, it seems like we should all be contacting our representatives and senators about this. It's just sort of one more reason why it's urgent to pass the Voting Rights or the John Lewis Act. And because this will be copied by other states.
Yes, so we really need to know what's going on here, Rebecca. And we'll make you a part of our big a roundtable on August 30th to lay out this kind of.
And can I say on that also, Harvey, real quickly, that the National Action Network and several other groups are doing a commemoration of the March on Washington,
right,
which the NAACP is participating in on that Saturday, August 28th. So we're going to have, so we're assisting in organizing that out of Georgia. And we'll be sending up busloads of folks leaving here on Friday night, the 27th, for major rallies in DC on the 28th. So we want to make sure we're channeling all of that energy together so that we make it a full weekend of events and have that focus with Ruth just referred to, that this can be a kickoff of the push to let people, let the Senate know that the people demand action on voting rights.
Absolutely. Great. Okay, thank you. Elsa Schaefer. And then Sue Dorfman.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much, Rebecca. Wow. I'm just curious whether, I think I heard you say that this was 24,000 people for all of Georgia that were being taken off the rolls. And they're not off yet, but you've gotten 20,000 to make sure they won't be taken off. Can just confirm it was for all of Georgia, not just certain counties?
No, it was all counties for rural Georgia.
Okay.
So outside of Atlanta, so not discounting Muskogee County, because there's a whole different thing happening in Muskogee. I'm not going to go into that right now. Okay. I'm in LA. I'm part of a network of organizers. And so I was brought on to this. What was discounted because of what's being covered, the urban centers are being covered by enough other groups.
Okay, great.
This is not a guarantee. What we're hoping is by sending these nonpartisan, brightly colored, personally,
exactly.
the routine, to even if neighbors can see it, because we're just trying to reach everyone who's about to be purged or needs help and get them the information. And
you went mute briefly. Okay. All right. Thank you, Rebecca. I think we got that. We're going to have you back again with.
Sorry, Rebecca, I too would love your email address, because the group I'm with has done a lot of work in rural Georgia, and we should be helping you.
And I'm sure you're on touch with Andrea Miller as well. So that's a really good connection there. Sue Dorfman. Sue, we connected through my sister over the weekend. And did you want to jump in with something for us, Sue Dorfman?
Sure. Hi, let me see if I can get it so that I actually.
Good. You're real good.
Okay, good. Sorry, my name's Sue Dorfman. I'm a photojournalist. I have been working on election-related stuff for many years, including in 1996, I was down in Mississippi and in Greater Boston and produced a documentary short called Dying to Vote. I was actually on KPFA in 2004 with Tom Hayden talking about that particular documentary. I decided for the year 2020, I wanted to go document what it looked like to vote in the United States. And I've been working on election protection issues for many years, really believing very strongly of everybody's right to vote. So I basically spent from January 2020 to January 2021 being in Gwinnett County for the Georgia runoffs, looking at what elections look like in the United States, and created a series of photo essays on that one. I put the link to it in in the chat feature right now. But I am looking to connect up with people, organizations who have been on the ground that are continuing to work on elections, election protections, working on passing the bills. During COVID, during 2020, and particularly during COVID, I traveled 24,000 miles into 22 states plus the District in Columbia, looking at what voting looked like. Traveled fairly extensively around Georgia, including many of the rural areas. And as I said, I ended up in Gwinnett County at the election head board of elections, watching the vote counting taking place, the ballot counting.
Do you have a documentary film about this?
No, it's all photos. And so
how can people see them?
yes, and I put the link into in there. The project's called Documenting Democracy. It is going to be, it's currently a website right now. It's going to be turned into a traveling photo exhibit as well as a book. I have been in contact with a number of voting rights organizations and sort of like live and breathe a lot of the information about what's happening in our nation. So it's very exciting to hear stuff.
You know what you could do next week, if you could prepare like a dozen photos and we can run through them on the call, it'd be great to see them.
Okay.
Okay, that would be a really cool thing. Thank you so much, Sue, and good to be back in touch with you. Lotus Yifang in the Bay Area. Lotus, did you want to give us a quick update on the runoff in California?
Harvey, we have Joel Ventresca, who moved from Indiana to California 50 years ago. He has filed, he is a real candidate, the only real progressive Democrat running in the Gavin Newsom recall. And in San Francisco, we are trying to dismantle the Democratic machine, which Newsom is part of, because he would have not made it to mayor without his father being the lawyer for Gordon Getty. So people should be aware there is a real progressive candidate, Joel Ventresca, Ventresca, Ventresca.
And what
I
do
put it in the chat too.
What do we think is going to happen with this recall? My gut sense is that Newsom is going to win, but I don't know. What do you think?
It's so close, you don't know. They're running ads with Elizabeth Warren for the LGBT gay community. And
Okay.
and I just saw one where he's out there cleaning up trash from a homeless encampment in Oakland.
Yeah.
So they're worried. It's very close.
We want them to inspect Diablo Canyon. So far, we haven't heard back, but let's keep on the case here. Thank you, Lotus. Julie Levine in
That is very possible. Joel has followed your work for a long.
What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Julie, in New York, do you want to give us a report on the new governor? Julie, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't really have anything new to
Julie
say, except that she's a moderate, and it looks as though she's going to be appointing a lieutenant governor soon. I don't really, not
Okay.
that I really
All right. Well,
can't add anything to what I was saying last.
the first female governor of New York, and she's very conservative in her background. Let's see if she stays that way. She has to run for governor next year, and then she's made it very clear she will. So
She's considered very likable and has contacts with everybody on all branches, in all branches of politics in New York State.
okay.
I don't think her background as a conservative is a defining trait. I think she's moderate, but with good relationships with everybody. So she's done lots and lots of touring of the state. She goes to every county every year. So she knows everybody.
And how is she on voting rights? Does she have any history with voting rights?
We have not tested that. I don't know that she's taken any positions. I mean, I'm sure she's in support of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, but that doesn't give us an answer about how she is on voting machines or the hybrid ban bill that we're trying to get passed, which we're now going to probably change the name of, by the way.
All right.
to more broad expression of safe and accessible voting, something like that.
You don't want to vote. You don't want a bill that's going to ban hybrids. People think you're going to talk about cars.
That's exactly why we want to change the name. That's exactly the argument that persuaded me. That
They
we
did
probably
sell
should
3
change the
million
name.
of them.
Yeah.
Okay, Jed Pauker and Art Levine, and then we're going to go to Joel to give us Joel Segal to give us an update on SR on the two big federal voting rights acts. We're joined by the great Charles Moreland. Great to see you, and if we can talk about DC statehood in a little bit, that would be great too. And you'll give us an update on what's going on. Jed Pauker, and then Art Levine, and then Joel Segal will get the big update. Jed?
Yeah, thanks, Harvey. I'll be real quick for right now on the California recall. This is a faction-led GOP effort to overturn the majority rule election with a tiny minority. 5 million people can vote for Newsom, and yet 1.8 million people can defeat Newsom. There's an article in New York Times about it. We're doing vote and go because go means forget question 2. Sorry for Mr. Ventresca, but we met with the California Dems, indivisible groups and activist groups representing over 166,000 Californians, sent a letter to Newsom, got a meeting with the CADEMs, told them we have 7 asks of you. We got all of the asks agreed to, and now they are working with us to do the one vote. It's one vote. You vote no on number 1, and then you send your ballot in. Done. Period. We don't have any time to waste on other stuff. And I'll stop right there because otherwise I'll give you more.
Did they agree to inspect Diablo Canyon? Oh, you're muted, Jed.
Yeah. The payback will be, we're going to remind him, as we did the Democratic Party and Nancy Pelosi, which I know for a fact because I was on the calls, that we helped them out and we helped them win. So we're gonna get the payback from him on energy all over California.
Let's hope.
Oh no, we're gonna do it.
All right. Well, I have every faith in you, Jed. Okay, we have 55 people on the call. Art Levine, and then we're gonna go for the big report on SR1. Then
I have a question about this, and I've gotten a lot of action on social media and Twitter about the California recall. Hundreds of retweets, thousands of engagements. What is not clear to me, for people outside of California right now who want to make calls to motivate the mostly apathetic Democrats and independents and so on about this issue, who is doing the best job and who do we ally ourselves with? Because the future of the Senate is at stake if Feinstein leaves or dies, and a Trumpist extremist minority, a Marjorie Greene type person could become governor of California as early as September or October.
Okay.
I'll throw some links in the chat to answer your question.
Yeah, okay, because we got a serious problem. And
okay, one quick follow-up. The main organizing thing for your justice, roundtable and the march still doesn't have any. The Columbus Committee with Moreland still doesn't have any speakers or partner organizations listed in an obvious way on the website. Yeah. Please address that.
Well, let's segue to Joel Segal. Joel, do you want to start talking about August 30th, and then we'll go into SR1, or you want to start? Well, answer this question if you would. And we do need to talk about the big bills before we get into our event. So go ahead, Joel.
Yeah, if anyone's expecting like an indivisible or our revolution, we don't have the capacity. We have enough capacity to do these events. Charles Moreland, I've never seen one person do so much in such a short a time. He's a hero. So if names go up on a computer, or I agree with you that it should, but that'll be done during the week. Right now, we're focusing more on the logistics, getting people to the round table. I've contacted now. I have 60 RSVPs. I'll go into it later. But and this is not meant in any way as a slight, Arthur. But Martin Luther King, he never had a website. And but he had, right? I'm just saying that websites are very important, but they don't really illustrate a movement or a potential of a movement, but we'll do our best. I just wanted to say, Arthur, that capacity, there's capacity issues. Okay.
We will have on August 30th, which is 2 weeks from today, a 4-hour event. And the event is going to be Zoomed. It was originally going to be at a church in DC, but because of the COVID, we decided to go 100% Zoom. And it will start at 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific time. And it's going to go with the first hour. We'll deal with voting rights and dealing with democracy and preserving democracy and the fight for the vote in this country. The second hour, we're going to deal with the environment, global warming, the conversion to renewables. We're going to talk about the transmission 5, and we're going to go straight from there. A third hour is going to be with Charles Moreland and DC Statehood, and then the fourth hour is going to be with poverty, homelessness, and justice. So it is a 4-hour roundtable. We are going to have great speakers, and what we're asking for from people who present is 4 things. We want people to, and everybody's going to get between 5 and 10 minutes, and this is a networking opportunity. Well, we might as well talk about this event now since you raised it, Art. We are asking people from all wings of the progressive movement to come in, and the basic purpose is that everybody should know who everybody else is and what they're doing. We're not going to be having great speeches. Dr. King's speech was 18 minutes. No one's going to match that. So we're going to go 5 to 10 minutes with as many people as we can possibly get in there. They're going to introduce themselves. They're going to talk about what they're doing. They're going to talk about what they need from the rest of the progressive movement, and they're going to give their contacts. So that when we emerge from each hour, we will have a network of people who are in touch with each other, who know what each other is doing, how to get in touch with you, and how to work together. And I will reiterate, part of the Georgia miracle happened because Ray McClendon hooked up with Andrea Miller on this call. And now we have Rebecca Landau also plugged in, and Elsa Schaefer, and Sue Dorfman, and so many other people. So the point of this 4-hour, 4 hours makes sense if you're in a church. 4 hours with a Zoom is even easier to do because you can, sit down and go to the refrigerator and stuff like that. So the bottom line is on August 30th, co-convene Joel Segal, Charles Moreland, TATANKA, so many other people. We are going to have 2 moderators for each hour. The first will be on election protection, the second on the environment, the third on DC statehood, the fourth on poverty, justice, and homelessness. And you will emerge from the 4 hours with a great set of connections. We'll all know what everybody else is doing and how to get in touch with each other. We're not going to have great, flourishing, rhetorical speeches. I mean, I could play that I have a dream speech, but you've all seen it. So, and we're going to have people from all over the country who are known and who have track records, but also a real emphasis on young people. We're trying to get as many boomers and millennials, Zoomers, too many boomers, Zoomers and millennials as possible, so that we can really, it will not only be multiracial, multigender, but also multi-generational. We really need to bring more young people in here. So that is the 4-hour package on 2 weeks from today, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Joel, do you want to tell us a bit about the people that you've been lining up? Joel, nobody can network like Joel Segal. So tell us, Joel, what we got going here.
Sure. Well, the S1 and S4, you want to do that a little bit later?
Yeah, we'll do that later.
Okay, sure.
So let's
well, Charles Moreland, myself, Harvey, many others have been really working hard on this roundtable. What I can tell you is that there's a large constituency of leaders, many I've worked with for 30 some odd years, who understand that we need a unified progressive movement and a unified progressive coalition, or it's going to be very difficult to transition to 100% clean renewable energy here or globally, to end poverty, to work on Medicare for all, to voter suppression, laws that should be, easily turned over if Congress passes great bills. We can't do that in silos anymore. So what we've agreed to do is we've made sure that this is gender, multiracial, it's got youth, and we've got I think we're at 47 RSVPs, and these are only of leaders, not participants, but leaders. But I'll name some of the groups that are in leadership right now. DC, of course, it's the DC Statehood Movement, National Coalition for the Homeless, National Organization of Women, National Latino Farmers and Ranchers, Trade Association. We just got the Workers Circle in New York City today. I talked to them for a long time. They're going to bring in Sunrise and lots of Jewish organizations that, as a Jewish person, I can tell you that we are often underrepresented in a lot of progressive organizations.
Also, Indivisible is going to be with us.
I don't have the contact Indivisible, but Harvey, sounds like you do, right?
Yeah, we do, yes.
Okay, okay, great. I'm going to put my...
involved with Indivisible, please contact us. Actually, we haven't formally contacted them. We're going to go through Russell Green, but if anybody on a call is involved with Indivisible, please let us know. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we have two routes to that.
Okay, Jed, we'll be in touch with you then.
So I'm just going to do the report, but I really want to hear, today, I think Harvey and I would like to, and Charles would like to hear from the, participants about this roundtable. After 38 years of organizing coalitions, including the Medicare for All, Universal Healthcare Coalition, Global AIDS, those are coalitions that I had the honor of leading with Congressman John Conyers. So I kind of know when we're onto something, and we're onto something because people are really fearful that if we don't unite, then we're not going to be effective with the issues that we're all, working on. At the end of the virtual Zoom, what we're going to do is there will be a press release that will be written, and we've already got very, very robust response from the press. They're going to give us a lot of ink, and especially the progressive press, because we want to announce this unprecedented gathering of progressive leaders have agreed to form a national justice roundtable. That hasn't been done in my lifetime. That's never happened before, because we've had siloed organizations doing great work, but you don't have if you go to a member of Congress or a staffer or a dignitary or press, first thing they'll ask you is, let me see your website, how many organizations are involved? And that's what John Conyers used to do. So we have to unify if we're going to have access to people that we need to get legislation passed or what have you. We need the critical mass to do, rapid response mobilizations, to raise money to groups like what's happening in Georgia with the Georgia Miracle, or some of the groups that are on this call. And hopefully that's something that we'll be able to accomplish. Charles is working on incorporation so that we actually have an organization. Thank you, Charles. He's been doing this gratis. So I'd say welcome to history. I never thought when I got invited to be, part of this Zoom that this would happen. And then we'll do several. We're going to do several roundtables, because the first year we're going to have to find each other. So like each month we'll have like a check-in call where organizations can say what they're doing, but we have to get to know each other. In America, we're a cowboy culture.
Okay.
We're cowboys. We want to change that. We want to become a band. Anyway, that's pretty much it. It's going great.
We're going to be a tribe. So what we're going to do is we're going to have these 4 one-hour sessions starting at 10 a.m. Eastern time, Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern on August 30th, 2 weeks from today. And then each hour will be, as I said, voter rights, the environment, DC statehood, and justice. And then we will follow each month with a 3-hour gathering that will on each topic. So the first one will be on voter rights, the second will be on the environment, and so on. And we will have breakout sessions and more networking. The point is to network and to unify so that everybody knows whatever everybody else is doing. The word I was looking for, is killing me, was 5G. that we're going to talk about during the environment. So the environment session. Tatanka and then Dorothy Wright, did you want to jump in on this?
Yeah,
Tatanka,
I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure working with Charles and Joel and you, Harvey, on this. One of the benefits of Zoom is our chief consultant on this is Dolores Huerta. She has to be in Mexico City for the wedding of one of her grandsons, but she will be, has been intimately involved with this and was very excited to be here with Takata, his daughter. He's got to be in Europe, but we can pre-tape him. We have, and one of the benefits of that is that we're working very heavily with Yunazda and Jennifer of the Indigenous Peoples Movement, who are really excited about this and are going to be bringing people from different parts of the country. So youth is a big part of this. You know, my vision is that it's not that we really want to have, we elders, but we want to have the younger generation to carry the torch together, as Dolores says. Dolores 91, she's not ready to give up the torch. So don't talk to me about passing the torch. We can share the torch. And a quick reminder while I'm on, this coming Saturday, 5 p.m. Pacific, you can just go to Dolores Huerta Foundation or DoloresHuerta.org and register for her virtual birthday party. It's a 1-hour party produced by a friend of mine. It'll be from 5 to 6 Pacific, and it's going to be, you know, a who's who of all the Dolores Huerta fans, you know, including Jane Fonda and Hollywood people and Stephen Colbert, a whole bunch of folks. So it's going to be a real upper. So anybody can join that. It's a fundraiser, but if there's no cost, you can put down and just go for free if you need to, if you want to.
Thank you for that, Tatanka. Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
And looking forward to Leno meeting with Ray and Charles as well. Welcome, Leno.
All right. Well, let's do Dorothy Reich, Charles Moreland, and then we'll talk to Leno. Dorothy Reich and then Charles Moreland. Dorothy, are you with us? I know you're there, Dorothy. Well, maybe you jumped off for a minute. Let's go to Charles Moreland and then we'll come back. Charles.
Thank you so much, Harvey. First, I want to say that Joel has made the right decision to have a virtual roundtable. In fact, we're also going to have a virtual awards event. In fact, it's probably going to be the greatest virtual awards event ever held. We've had some discussions and some plans, and we even have virtual awards being made, and we're going to have the awardees make a brief acceptance video. There's an app that allows people to do that. We also looking at, quite frankly, what we're going to do about the march. We haven't figured out yet how to have a virtual march, but I want to let you know that the Park Service.
Ray, Charles, we lost you momentarily.
I'm sorry. Charles, I'm back now. Yeah, I got muted. The Park Service has really laid it on very heavy for us at a meeting last Thursday to cancel all events because of their concerns about the Delta variant and Delta Plus variant. It is real, but you would have been proud of myself and Senator Brown and Franklin Garcia as we emphasize to them how important it is for us to be able to march. In fact, Franklin made it clear that he was out there last year. He's ready to go out and us being fully vaccinated, all of us, if there's a risk associated with going out marching. And in response to that, the Park Service identified an area at Constitutional Gardens and I think since then they're very helpful. We're honored to have Senator Brown on right now, and I'd like to ask Senator Brown to take a minute to tell us about that meeting with the Park Service, and how we were able to convince them that, yeah, we need to have the right and opportunity to go out and stand up for DC statehood and to demand environmental justice and social justice. Senator, are you online?
Yeah, I am, Charles. Thank you. And like Charles said, we think it's very important for us to show up. And we're going to finalize things, I think, tomorrow with the Park Service on all our activities outside. So we're very hopeful that everything will go well. This is going to, we've thought right from the beginning that there's a lot of pent up frustration about each one of these issues. And we think that we're going to have a good turnout and it's going to be a great march. And so we're excited about it. And yes, we told the Park Service, this is something we have to do.
And let me add that in every adversity there's opportunity. In that regard, the pandemic contributes to global solidarity. And the pandemic requires all of us to think about each other in order to survive. So we have to look at that and see how we can see the silver lining. The roundtable is going to be an outstanding event. We also have the all faith leaders who are meeting tonight, and so they're going to go virtual. Let me share with you something, and I want to get some comments to think about it. One of the things that they proposed is what they call a prayer buster to break the filibuster, and asking ministers to show up and pray for as long as they can pray at the Senate. So we're considering a lot of things. We will be active, and we will have a demonstration of our intent to stand up and demand freedom and justice in many areas during that weekend of August the 28th. And there was a question asked about the website. You're absolutely right. But one of the things we decided, and we have a lot of sponsors, when we do the next post on the website, it's going to be the last time and everything is going to be reported. But we will have the awards banquet. In fact, one of the things I'm requesting today is anybody that has anybody in any state and certainly nationally, post on the chat and go on the website and nominate individuals, especially individuals that you can reach. But we think we're going to make it very easy for them to record their acceptance and have a totally virtual awards event. So we appreciate everybody's support. The roundtable is going to be outstanding. The ministers are going to show up and we're going to pray. Nothing can stop us from praying. And that's what the minister said. And we're going to pray for statehood. Okay, we're going to pray for God to save the earth. And we're going to pray for justice. Nothing can stop preachers from praying. I quote Michael Brown. It's about as easy to get a preacher to pray as it is to get a child to bite an ice cream cone. So we will be there. We will do this.
Well, really looking forward to it, Charles. And, you know, we've all been thrown for a loop with the pandemic. We had one thing planned, now we got another, and it's great. And you are a master. And Dorothy Reich wanted to jump in. Dorothy, are you there? Okay, she's gone again. So Charles, we are going to have the third hour of the event 2 weeks from today, devoted to DC statehood, and you'll be moderating that. You'll be giving us a list of speakers and participant organizations. Everybody on this call, if you have organizations, if you're involved with organizations that, especially of young people, that you think could do with a 5 to 10 minute spot in one of these 4 slots, one of these 4 programs, we will certainly entertain it. We are not looking for long, flowery speeches. We're looking for short introductions and marching plans. And that's really what we want. And this will be a great opportunity for any organization to network. I want to say real quickly, we're at the top of the hour. If you've been listening on the Progressive Radio Network, we're about to sign off from PRN. Go to electionprotection2024.org. get the link and join, and you can see the rest of the call, which will be recorded by our engineers, Steve Caruso and Mike Hirsch at PDA. And but if you're leaving us, just there will be another 40 minutes that you can hear recorded with the link that you can get, election protection 2024.org. We'll see you again next week, as usual, at the Progressive Radio Network. Dorothy Reich, are you back with us? Dorothy?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, so I was just gonna say something about California. I'm sorry, I've been.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't understand. There's one guy, and he's a jerk, I admit, but he's a Democrat. His name is Kevin something Paff or whatever. And he has a huge YouTube following. There's a chance that he could, if God forbid, Gavin loses, he's got higher ratings than Larry Elder. And I don't understand why we wouldn't all just vote for him just to make sure to preserve our Senate majority. It doesn't make any sense to me to pass on the second item.
All right. Well, thank you, Dorothy. We'll come back to it if you want, but we're
I know, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. I want to go back to Charles Moreland real quick, and then we'll talk to Leno, who Tatanka has brought on the call. Charles Moreland, did you want to say more?
Yes, I'm going to have to go. In fact, I'm going to attend a meeting right now with Mark Thompson and a group that has invited us to speak at the Lincoln Memorial. I just want to mention that our group has been invited to speak at the Lincoln Memorial, so we have to identify our speakers. I believe we're going to have 5 to 10 people from our group to be able to speak. Certainly the senator and our U.S. representative will be able to speak on statehood, but we also asked them to have somebody speak on green issues and certainly for Joel to speak on the roundtable. Thanks, everybody.
Charles, thank you. And you definitely have been great to work with, and you've got that third hour for DC statehood on our roundtable 2 weeks from today, and we'll be talking tomorrow and further on about other organizational stuff. Again, if you've got groups that you think should be represented on this roundtable, we will this coming week start to publish who's going to be there as per Art Levine's question, and then we will have a website to fill up very quickly with people who are going to speak. So if you've got suggestions, I put my email in the chat, solartopia@gmail.com, and we're looking especially for young people, Zoomers and millennials from the younger group. Okay, Leno, wanted you to introduce yourself with Tatanka, and I think you just missed Charles, unfortunately, but we can network with him as we go ahead. Leno?
Hi, I'm Leno. Really, that's my nickname. My real name is Magdaleno Rose Avila. I come out of the United Farm Workers Movement, as Tatanka did also. And I've been doing a lot of immigration rights work, doing a lot of election stuff and voter registration. And I'm living right here in DeKalb County in Georgia right now. And right now I'm on the national board of an organization called CEEP, which is Campus Engagement Elections Project, which is primarily getting youth on campuses to vote. This year, we're going to expand that to both campus and non-campus youth because we need to expand that. We have a great new executive director because we think the power of all movements of change involve youth. We also believe that the music and the arts are a way to reach a lot of people. And I'm writing an article about a concert series that we did when I was with Amnesty International, which was a world concert tour, which we went to 15 countries and had 20 concerts. And our main headliners were Peter Gabriel, Sting, Youssou N'Dour, Tracy Chapman, and a guy called Bruce Springsteen. And we went around the world and reached millions of people. The youth wanted to be attracted, and music and the arts is what gets them to our place. The other group that I think that we tend to forget about, well, of course, Latinos, which we always have to do a special outreach to them. But another group is 1 out of 4 Americans has a disability. We have not done good work in this country about reaching out to the people who are differently abled and get them involved. They are waiting for us to bring them onto our team. They're stuck at home, they're stuck in a chair, or they're in a place where they have more time and nobody's engaged them to pull out that vote. That's a secret vote that should belong to us because we're the ones who protect them. And if you notice in all the voter suppression acts, is one of the groups that they're after is ADA. And we need to, in all of our lawsuits, make sure that we include ADA protections, because those are the people, if you talk about anybody who has a hard time getting their ballot and getting to vote, that's a group that belongs to us. I'm excited to be here with this group. I'm charged up, empowered, and I know that, you know, as our good friend Dolores Huerta always tells us, si se puede, yes, it can be done, but we have to work hard. Democracy is not easy. It's a little messy, and we have to work really hard. And working with TATANKA, the farm workers for social justice and against the death penalty, you find out that we can make progress, but it's not easy, but it takes all of us. So I'm excited to hear all these voices and the challenges that you lay out to all of us to dream beyond our borders and make the impossible a reality through hard work. Gracias.
Donato, thank you. So if you'll put your connections, your links in the chat, and we will definitely want you to on the roundtable with the groups that you're working with. That would be really good. TATANKA, did you want to jump in with a comment here before we move?
Yeah, I just want to, one of Leno's gifts is he's an incredible motivational speaker. And he also can really chime in on different voices. I mean, someday you need to ask him to do Martin Luther King. You think you'd be hearing him. Anyway, welcome, Leno. I think he would be a great representative since Dolores cannot be with us. He should be one of the featured speakers at our event in the round table, and maybe even at at the event of the day on Saturday, the 28th. So welcome, Leno. And Leno's known for the one to teach Steve Earle how to play the guitar. I'll just leave it at that.
Hey, Harvey.
Yeah, go ahead, Joel.
Is it Magdaleno?
Magdaleno.
Hola, ¿qué tal? I was just really moved with everything you said. I started off as an anti-apartheid activist, age 26 years old, UNC Law School. I got the fever and I haven't stopped. I am also a professional bass player. I'm a musician, and I always bring in music. I don't care what it is. I brought in, I'm not like into name dropping. I'm talking about like real life here, but I brought in Bono to work on global HIV/AIDS. Bono prayed with George W. Bush in the White House and passed PEPFAR. So you're right about celebrities and music, and maybe one day you and I can jam together, but we do need some music. We need some music for the roundtable. I would like to ask you to be one of the opening featured speakers, Magdaleno. If you could say what you just said near the beginning, that's what we need to hear. What you just said.
Can I respond a little bit?
Sure.
Joel, we might fall in love here over this Zoom. Okay. But the last time, the year that we got the MLK holidays, our good friend John Conyers had been pushing for it forever. And the last year we had a demonstration or a gathering on Martin's birthday in front of the east side of the Capitol. And he brought the choir director was Stevie Wonder.
That's right. He told me about that.
Yeah. And
he told me about
that really prompted a conversation with George Bush, the senior, that got the holiday moving. And Stevie had told him, I don't want to meet with that cracker, but John said, well, maybe we need to do this to get it done. But I think when we were there in the snow singing Happy Birthday was the best birthday party. Me and my family, my wife and my two boys, we were there in snowing. Moments like that make you feel proud to be an American.
Okay.
I just want to say one last thing that's going to blow people away. So Congressman Conyers, who I worked with for 13 years, told me that Stevie Wonder wrote Happy Birthday on a piano that Mr. Conyers had in his apartment. he said he wrote it in 15 minutes. Like it was a few hours before he was supposed to perform. But, you know, he worked on that for, I think it was 13 or 15 years. And they always, you know, voted it down. And then he got Ronald, this is how slick my boss was. He got Reagan to agree to back it.
That's right.
And the rest is history. But Connors used to say, Joel, you can't give up on universal health care. It took so many years to pass the Martin Luther King holiday. I didn't know that. I thought it was easy. The racists in the Congress did not want to see a holiday for Black people.
Okay, very good. And,
Harvey, Senator Brown, I have to leave to be on the meeting with Charles as well, but I wanted to thank everybody for all the time they put into this. And I want to say hello to my old friend, Len Rosavilla. We worked together at the DNC for Chuck Manat 100 years ago. I've gotten to be a cranky old man and you still look the same, Len. It's nice to have you on board. Thanks, everybody.
Good to have you too. Okay, this is a really great thing. We're now remember 2 weeks from today is the big roundtable. We want your suggestions of who can come on. We especially want young people, 5 to 10 minute presentations on what you're doing. No big speeches. What we want. This is a working group and a working networking opportunity. So that's what we're going to do. George Ripley and then Julie Wiener. George, you're muted. Go ahead. You're still muted, George.
Is there a reason the chat has been turned off?
I don't know, but go ahead.
That was my only point.
Oh, okay. I don't know. No, I see his chat. I see one there. Maybe it's on your end there. CIA is messing with your computer.
I can't type into the chat either.
I can't either. Victoria speaking.
It's disabled.
The chat is disabled.
Steve
I think
and Mike,
someone was using it.
Steve and Mike, can we get the chat going again somehow? Thank you for that report, George. I appreciate that. Julie Wiener, do you want to say something, Julie?
Oh, yes. I just wanted to strongly endorse Mr. Rosavilla's statement about the importance of involving people with disabilities and organizations of people with disabilities, particularly in the election integrity work. We've had a lot of false claims or partially false claims by voting machine vendors that supposedly people with disabilities are endorsing universal use ballot marking devices. Whereas when we've spoken with particular disability rights groups, it turns out they very well understand that the right to access a ballot requires also that you have assurances that your vote is counted as cast, which is, of course, impossible with universal use ballot marking devices or with hybrids that connect ballot marking devices to scanners. So this is it's really crucial to stay in touch with the organizations that the vendors are trying very hard to co-opt and have to some extent successfully in the past, or at least claim to have co-opted.
Well, the first argument we got when we demanded in Ohio 2004 universal hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots was that they brought up the idea of the disability community. And this is the first, actually after 60 calls, it's the first serious discussion that we've had of the disabled community, or especially challenged, or whatever we call them now. So Leno, if you will take care of getting us the right group or groups to talk about the disability dimension in the voting issue, that would be really great. Okay. All right. We somehow we have 54 people on. We have more than we did a half hour ago. And I want to go now to Joel. We're running out of time. We're at 3:15. We have 25 minutes left. And I want to make sure, unless someone else has something to raise here, Myla and then Jeffrey. Myla Reason. Go ahead, Myla.
Hey, thanks. I see that Alan Minsky is going to join us in a minute.
Okay,
and I'm
good.
just wondering whether, the Senate's coming back in the middle of September. The House is going to take up the voting rights legislation, they say, on August 23rd. And I'm just wondering whether all of the redistricting that is about, that Republicans are pouncing on right now will be set in stone before the Democrats can legislate some kind of a remedy for that.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that that can be answered. I don't have answers, only questions.
We want to jump in on that real quick. Yes, absolutely. Jeffrey, did you have something real quick that you want to raise real quick? And then we're going to go to Joel Segal.
You know, all this, I'm starting to think for the Democrats, I think for the right Democrats to get in office, I think they might have to, excuse this, but they might have to play dirty.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that, Jeffrey. Okay. Joel Segal now, can you give us the rundown? Then we're going to go. Alan Minsky has joined us from PDA, and someone else was on the stack. But Joel, let's jump in now. And then Alan, I'll expect you to follow on what is happening with the two big federal voting laws, HR 1 and HR 4. Okay, so Joel and then Alan. Joel, you're muted for some reason.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
go
good.
ahead. And thank you, Maya. We had a bit of a conversation about it yesterday and very disturbing. So go ahead, Joel.
Yeah, so Ted Cruz blocked consideration of the bill. And
which bill?
S1, you know,
the For the People Act.
For the People Act, yeah. So there's no way they could.
Or was he in the Congress? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the Senate. So
when he blocked it. Go ahead.
So what's going to happen now is the version. This is what I'm just telling you what I think is going to happen. I think the version that Joe Manchin drafted of the For the People Act, I do think that's the version that will be introduced and passed. One good thing about it is Manchin he's for reforming gerrymandering, take it out of the hands of partisan elected officials to some kind of a civil society, whatever, nonpartisan structure. That is really, really important. He definitely wants to protect early voting. That's really important. He does want to reform campaign finance reform, but it's not clear how far he wants to go. I guarantee you it's not as progressive as the House version that's now in the Senate. But that's what I think is going to happen. One of the reasons why we need a National Justice Roundtable is so we could do mass mobilizations to put pressure on Manchin that we cannot do right now because we're not coordinated. We don't have enough creativity or coordination to really think out of the box. Okay, how can we push back on Manchin? Because we should not let one, blue dog Democrat stop democracy or radically alter a bill because he wants to show some love to the Republicans. There's something wrong with that picture. In terms of the John Lewis bill, it's not really clear when they're going to bring that up for a vote. I know they're supposed to do them both together. What is real clear is that bill could be passed. Manchin actually went to the left of the bill and on record said that he thinks pre-clearance provisions, in other words, a state wants to pass a voter suppression law under the 65 Civil Rights Act that got gutted by the Supreme Court case Shelby versus Holder. And they basically nullified the pre-clearance section and said, racism is sort of gone, it's disappeared. So, we don't need pre-clearance anymore, which let the Congress come up with a new formula. As soon as the decision was rendered, state after state started passing Jim Crow voter suppression legislation. So, I think Roberts maybe was wrong. Nevertheless, if Manchin is really the key Democrat that you need to pass the John Lewis bill, they need to go ahead and introduce that fast. He's saying 50 states got to be pre-cleared, but then he does want to weaken some other provisions. But
he wants
Manchin got the power. Right? That's it.
He wants a voter ID. Is that right, Manchin?
He does want voter ID, but he wants to make sure that there's financing. But that remains to be seen. In other words, you can talk all you want, say, I'm for a voter ID, it's a requirement. Well, how are people going to get it? How are they going to afford it? Are there going to be PSAs? So it's not clear about what he wants to do with voter ID. But yeah, that's a requirement. The way he rolls, he always thinks in terms of bipartisanship. So even if what he's sort of not agreeing to is really immoral and, you know, abhorrent to a progressive, because he has that philosophy, he thinks through in terms of, well, what language can we use for bipartisanship? And that just fits nicely into the fact that he's got to get money from, you know, the right wing 1%, and his state is voted majority Trump. So he has a very complicated dance. Nevertheless, yeah.
Well, Joe Manchin notwithstanding, how do either of these two bills get passed, notwithstanding the filibuster? What happens? I mean, Alan Minsky, do you want to talk on that, or Joel?
Reconciliation.
How do we do that? How does that?
Yeah, there are two different pathways, and Joel just mentioned one of them. But there's a big problem with waiting for reconciliation. The best pathway by far is that yesterday or Friday, the Senate responds to Rubio, introduces Manchin's bill. It also doesn't get 60 votes, which it won't get. If you have partisan gerrymandering being eliminated, you will not get a single Republican vote, and you shouldn't have any illusions about it. And Manchin knows that. So Joel's correct about what Manchin is doing in terms of bipartisanship, but view it as like essential virtue signaling on Manchin's part. Okay, you need to reform the filibuster. Joel is correct for everything else in the bill. And partisan gerrymandering can be addressed, but it won't impact the 2022 midterms unless it's done in the next, 10 days, a week. And that's the huge tragedy. And I'll get to that huge tragedy in a second. So the filibuster has to be reformed because the reconciliation bill, you probably all remember, only a few shots at reconciliation each year. Basically, the reconciliation component in the Senate exists so that you have a mechanism so you don't stall and don't create a federal budget. And that's why that broke away from the filibuster requirements, and you're only allowed to do it a couple times a year. And yes, you could attach this to it. It could be challenged by the parliamentarian, but chances are with this being so heightened, they would just say, well, forget the parliamentarian and go forward. Okay, so that's one way to get there, but it won't happen till way past the point where the congressional lines are drawn for the 2022 election. I personally believe the 2022 midterms, winning the House, not losing the legislature, even if you get it passed so they get redrawn after that cycle of elections, it would be absolutely catastrophic at this moment for the world and just everything. And for the prospects of the Democratic Party even going past, let's say you win and you get to redraw them after for the 2024 election. Because you would have lost power for a while and you would have lost the opportunity to build momentum on your policies, show what they do for the American people, yada, yada, yada. So anyway, so that's the tragedy, is that this needed to be passed on Friday. Why? Because, and I'm going to put into the link right now, an unbelievably brilliant interview that John Nichols did yesterday with Ian Masters. And he's very focused on this. Look, the Republican Party is not pulling any punches. We see that around the country. We know exactly what they're going for, and they have their districts already drawn. They're ready to go. They're ready to pull the trigger. There's no way in hell they're not be drawn, at least the majority of Republican-controlled states, by the time the Senate comes back, which is mid-September. So we need to get a pressure campaign to get the Senate back in place to go through the process of creating a carve-out for the filibuster and passing this bill that Manchin will put forward. And if not that, then a standalone bill on partisan gerrymandering. Okay? Go right to the House. The House will already be in session. They'll pass it. And so we got to figure out, and we got to build momentum. And Joel's right about unification of our movements, the need for that, to have a unified voice, and how essential this is. And the Nichols interview was great. I know we all know these talking points. You all know I've been coming on this the past few weeks, going full force on this issue. That interview with Nichols, he is so spot on that interview. It's a great thing to listen to refine your points, and it's all about gerrymandering. I mean, he uses his own state of Wisconsin as an example, where they gerrymander the state legislatures. The Democrats in one election cycle won 200,000 more votes across the state, and the Republicans had 60% of the seats in the legislature. That's how efficient it is now, and the Republicans will be more savage on gerrymandering than they've ever been before in this cycle. And you can forget about control of the House if they go forward with this. So that's my take on it right now. There's the question of the calendar, and that is a huge lift. I don't know how the hell we get those guys back in to do this, you know? Chances are it'll be easier to raise our voices and be heard once the House comes back on the 23rd. That gives us, what, a week to build a movement to try to get the Senate back, to pressure Schumer. And again, I do think a filibuster carve out, because the reconciliation bill won't be passed at the earliest September 30th, and really probably not ultimately till November. And there's so many ways they can delay it. And there's nothing that they will delay and seek to defeat more than the elimination of partisan gerrymandering, because they, unlike the Democratic Party, knows how the game of politics are played in the United States, or at least they care to win.
That's right. Hey, Alan, I just want to tell you, first of all, thank you for embracing the idea of unity. When this roundtable is born, and you're one of the leaders of it, what really makes sense is that the PDA becomes the lobbying wing of this. That's what we're envisioning, because this is this going to be a solidarity movement as well. So if PDA has an action, then maybe you can get 500 more organizations. That's a big part of what we're doing. Is going to be a solidarity network and a rapid response, call your elected officials network. And whenever there's a crisis, we have to form an ad hoc coalition. We're going to go ahead. The Republicans have had their coalition together since the 80s, and they have millions of dollars behind it. We have to match them. But thank you for being so supportive of what we're trying to do.
Thank you for everybody here. That's it for me. Thank you.
PDA has got to be a big part of this. We really need a organization behind us. Steve Caruso. Steve, did you want to jump in? We only have 12 more minutes on the recorded chat, but we're going to keep going, obviously. Steve? Steve Caruso, are you there? You got your hand up. Okay, George Ripley, and then we'll go back to Steve.
Steve is trying to talk.
Hey,
Question for Alan.
This is Dr. Laura.
Oh, all
I've
right.
been on-
Laura, we got you, and then George Ripley. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been on Stacks for a long time. Okay, Alan Minsky, do you have this written up someplace where we can really get it around so we can start generating some phone calls? So basically we're saying to the senators, come back in and give Manchin what he wants with SR1, but he's got to promise to carve out the filibuster. Is that correct?
It fits what we've been writing on PDA, and Mike Herschel and I composed that about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and then we revised it about a week ago. We haven't updated it since they failed to do anything before they left. So that's where our text is. The Nichols interview I put up, I know it's audio, and Nichols has an article in The Nation. I imagine it's equally excellent. I'd look at those.
Are you going to revamp your, talking points?
Yes, Mike, let's try to get together and do that by, say, Thursday at the latest. Right now, I do have to say PDA's next national communications are going to be about Afghanistan, but this is equal priority. Nothing's a bigger priority. So thank you, Laura.
Can you send the link to Harvey, and he can send it out when you're done?
Yeah,
so that we can send. Okay, cool. Okay, so that's one part of my.
Thank you so much, Laura.
Okay, cool.
Laura, thank you.
You got it. You got it. So now, hold on, Tim. One more thing. That is, guys, we need a better link for the National Justice Roundtable. We're two weeks out, and I can't even really download the link that it looks like it's on the Grassroots.
It's on our site. We will expand it. We got thrown a loop because we thought we were going to be in a church, and now we're Zooming. But the next few days, we're really going to be pedal to the metal here. And by next week's call, we'll have a full blown, ready to rock and roll product.
Okay.
And Sluggo and Laura, thanks for bringing that up. We're using the same link because people are familiar with it.
And if people, if we get like, you know, an extra huge crowd to that link, maybe they'll start Zooming with us on the weekly basis.
Yes, so but we will use the same link, and as I say, it's on Monday, but it's an earlier time because it's a 4-hour deal as opposed to a 2-hour deal. So we're going to start at 1 p.m. Eastern.
And how about the rest of the Zoom stuff in DC? Because they say it's going to you're going to be able to go to it all virtual.
Well, we'll communicating that as best we can. Just Charles is in charge of that, and we will work with Charles on that. And,
Laura, it's the same thing. It's DC is the roundtable. We're not having it in DC. We're having it virtual. So it's all the same thing.
Yeah. Right. But there's the virtual march, there's all sorts of, they keep talking about all this Zoom stuff for the DC actions. Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you. And we're going to continue. We're almost out of time. It's 3:31. Steve Caruso, did you want to?
Yeah.
We will continue up till the top of the hour, if not beyond. Go ahead, Steve.
Yes, Wall Street Journal put out a complaint that Manchin is asking for utility bills as voter ID. So I don't think he's asking for a real, like a driver's license or something you have to go work for. He's just asking for a utility bill or the simple thing. So if that's given the Dems an open, maybe he's got an agenda, but that sounds like a good thing to me.
Yeah, it sounds like a good thing to me too. He's actually not been all that bad on a lot of the voter rights stuff in terms of content. The question is, as Joel's, what's the magic to get this through with the filibuster still in place? And then we got Kirsten Sinema to worry about, but she is a co-sponsor of the John Lewis bill. So maybe some of this can actually happen. It would be spectacular if it did. Myla, you had a hand? Oh, I'm sorry, George, and then Myla.
Yeah, a question for Alan or anybody, actually. Are there any lawsuits pending before the Supreme Court with regards to redistricting? Because, I mean, the whole idea that Democrats can get so many more votes than Republicans, and Republicans end up with more representation, it flies in the face of democracy.
It's outrageous.
What did happen in the last period? You might recall that one of the things that greatly assisted the Democrats in 2018 in the House, I think it was 2018, but certainly in 2020, even the holding on to the majority, smaller majority, was the redrawing of Pennsylvania. And the Pennsylvania was challenged. However, the ruling was such that partisan gerrymandering is still legal. Gerrymandering that negatively impacted minority communities, correct me anybody if I'm wrong, I think that was the nature of the decision, was ruled illegal. Therefore, Pennsylvania had to redraw its districts by, I think, commission. And guess what? It ended up in Pennsylvania, no surprise here, and it ended up split 8-8. I think it's 16 seats. Maybe it's a little more. It ended up evenly split. Before that, it was like a 13-5 for the Republicans. So there were like, as you can see.
Well, it seems as though the partisan gerrymandering could be challenged. I mean, it's counter.
The court has said
apparently partisanship is allowable according to the courts currently, but not. In fact, the courts explicitly called for, and that's one of the reasons why this particular legislation around partisan gerrymandering is on very sound legal grounds, is the courts even signaled partisan gerrymandering to be outlawed needs to be addressed by legislative statute.
And you remember you actually had legislation passed in Michigan because Arnold Schwarzenegger's son is at the U of M, so he went up there and worked on it. But we do have a decent change of the law in Michigan, but that's just one state. And Ohio technically has some rigmarole that may improve the situation a bit. We're not sure how much. That's still up in the air. But the rest of the states, it's a nightmare, as we all know. Myla, and then I'm going to sign off on the recorded part of the talk, and we can go into the 4-letter word free-for-all. Myla Reason?
I'd like to remind people that the corrupt, anti-democratic, union-busting junta that has taken charge of Pacifica first came after Alan Minsky. Now they're raiding the pensions of workers who have been employed at KPFK for decades. And it's just really got to stop. We have to stand in solidarity with KPFK workers who are under siege right now. And there's a wonderful article in Down with Tyranny written by Harvey Wasserman and co-signed by
you,
me, and a number of other people. And this law firm that's been hired by the corrupt individuals who are trying to destroy the Pacifica National Radio Network is represented by a union-busting law firm, and that has worked for Walmart and other huge multinational corporations. It's something that we all need to get behind. We need to publicize this and stop this dismantling of Pacifica before it's too late.
Yes, based on a memo written by Alan Minsky years ago, the Pacifica Radio Network should be a leading progressive voice, and it's been corrupted and taken over by.
You know, Harvey and Mila, it's very sad that link I put into the chat. I'm sorry, Jeffrey, with the interview with John Nichols and Ian Masters. If you listen to that, and everyone should for the content, at the end, Ian says, "This is the last show I'm ever doing." Ian started in, oh boy, when did he start, Mila? 30 years ago, practically, on KPFK. And this was his last show ever because he resigned in protest.
Horrifying, you know, as an election issue, we won the election to reform the bylaws at Pacifica, and this junta has stepped in and is overriding them. That's another story. We can go into that in the off the air. We are at 3:37. This has been the 61st Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Coalition gathering.
Wait, let me say one thing first.
No, you have to wait till after. Thank you, though, please, because we don't have time. We're out. You can be the first after the recording stops. So we are going to go now to go off the recording. This has been 61. We will meet again next week, number 62, and then at the regular time at 5 p.m. Eastern time, 2 p.m. Pacific. We're using the same link next Monday. And then the Monday after that, which is August 30th, we will meet at 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific time for 4 hours. This was going to be in person in DC, but in deference to the COVID, we have decided to make it a Zoom. If you or a group that you work with wants to make a brief presentation, this is going to be a networking operation. We are going to have probably in each hour at least 7, 8, maybe 10 presentations. People are going to introduce themselves, their organization, and what they're doing. They will tell you how they can be helped, and they will give you their connections. And we want to build, as Joel Segal has been speaking so articulately, a unified coalition of progressives where everybody knows everybody else, and everybody knows what everybody else is doing and how each other can help us, specifically in election protection, protecting the earth, DC statehood, and justice, ending poverty and homelessness. That'll be 2 weeks from today. So that will be with the same link. Email me, solartopia@gmail. If you have a group you want to suggest, we are not only going to be multi-gender, multi-racial, multi-ethnic, but also multi-generational. We want as many young people as can come in, and that by young people generally refer to people born after 1980, the millennials and the Zoomers, unlike us fossils from the previous century. So this has been another great call. Thank you, Steve Caruso and Mike Hirsch, our engineers. Thank you, Joel, for co-convening, and thank you so many of you. We still have 45 people on, so let's keep on. Goodbye, everybody, and we'll see you next week in Solartopia.
Was there an Adam? Was there an Eve? Or did we evolve